Captain Marcus Reed adjusted his uniform one final time as he walked down the gleaming white corridor of the U.S. horizon. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his face calm. Today was the most important day in human history. They were about to meet aliens for the first time. The diplomatic chamber doors slid open with a soft hiss. Marcus stepped inside and looked around the empty room. White walls, a large conference table, and viewing screens showing the stars outside. Everything looked normal, but nothing about this day was normal. "Sir, they're coming through now," said Lieutenant Emma Collins from her position at the control panel. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and nervous eyes. "Good. Remember everyone, we only get one chance to make a first impression," Marcus said to his small team. Dr. Emily Watson stood nearby, checking her translation equipment one more time. She was the smartest person Marcus had ever met, and if anyone could talk to aliens, it was her. The air in the center of the room began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Blue light danced and swirled, growing brighter. Marcus had seen the videos from the probe missions, but seeing it in person was different. The light took shape, forming into something that looked almost human but made of living crystal. The alien was tall, maybe 7 feet, with a body that seemed to be made of clear blue glass. Light moved through it like water, creating patterns that shifted and changed. When it moved, it was smooth and graceful, like it was floating instead of walking. "Welcome aboard the U.S. Horizon," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I am Captain Marcus Reed of the United Earth Space Force." The alien's voice came from everywhere at once, soft but clear. "I am Ambassador Lyra of the Zephyrian Diplomatic Corps. We are honored to meet your species, Captain Reed. Your people show remarkable progress for such a young civilization." Marcus smiled. This was going better than he had hoped. "Thank you, Ambassador. We're excited to learn about your people and the galaxy beyond our system." More aliens appeared in flashes of blue light. Ambassador Lyra introduced them one by one. There was Commander Kale, who would handle the technical exchanges, and several others whose names Marcus tried hard to remember. Each looked similar but had different patterns of light moving through their crystal bodies. "Shall we begin the formal exchange of information?" Dr. Watson asked, stepping forward with a data tablet in her hands. "We have prepared cultural databases, historical records, and basic technological information to share with you." "Excellent," Ambassador Lyra replied. "We have done the same. This exchange will help both our peoples understand each other better." The next few hours passed quickly. The aliens were fascinated by human music and art. They asked many questions about Earth's different cultures and languages. Marcus found himself relaxing as the conversation flowed easily. "Your planet is quite diverse," observed Commander Kale, his crystal form flickering with what seemed like interest. "So many different peoples and customs on one world. This is unusual in our experience." "Yes, we're proud of our diversity," Dr. Watson replied. "It's made us stronger as a species." The aliens shared information about their own worlds and the Galactic Council, a group of species that worked together across the galaxy. It sounded amazing to Marcus. Hundreds of different worlds, all sharing knowledge and resources. "We would be honored to sponsor humanity's application to join the Council," Ambassador Lyra said. "You seem to be a peaceful, civilized species." Marcus felt a surge of excitement. This was better than their best-case scenario. That would be incredible. We've dreamed of this moment for generations. But then something changed. Commander Kale, who had been quietly processing the human data they had shared, suddenly stopped moving. The light patterns in his body shifted to a deep red color. "Ambassador," Kale said, his voice different now, worried. "I need to speak with you privately." Lyra's own patterns shifted. "What is wrong?" "The human data. There are some concerning elements in their military files." Marcus felt his stomach drop. "What kind of concerns?" Kale turned to face him, and Marcus could somehow sense the aliens' distress despite not understanding how to read their expressions. "Captain Reed, your military documents contain references to something called acceptable collateral damage, regarding what appears to be the systematic elimination of entire species." "Wait, you don't understand?" Marcus started to say. "The records show massive extinctions on your world," Kale continued. "Hundreds of species eliminated. And your military classifies these as operationally acceptable losses." Dr. Watson stepped forward quickly. "Those records are taken out of context. If you'll let us explain." But Ambassador Lyra was already backing away, her crystal body now pulsing with alarmed red light. "We have found similar patterns in your historical databases. Mass extinctions, environmental destruction, elimination of competing life forms. Please just listen," Marcus pleaded. Your species has eliminated over half of the large animal species that once existed on your planet, Kale stated, his voice cold. This level of systematic destruction. We have never encountered anything like it. The other Zephyrian diplomats were also changing color, their bodies flickering between red and orange patterns of distress and alarm. We must report this to the Galactic Council immediately, Ambassador Lyra announced. A species capable of such genocide cannot be allowed to spread beyond their home system. No, wait. Marcus shouted. You're misunderstanding everything. We're not monsters. We're survivors. But the aliens were already starting to fade, their forms becoming transparent as they prepared to transport away. We are sorry, Captain Reed, Ambassador Lyra said sadly. But the evidence is clear. Humanity represents a threat that the galaxy cannot ignore. The blue light flashed one final time and then the aliens were gone. Marcus stood in the empty chamber, staring at the space where they had been. In just a few minutes, humanity had gone from being welcomed into galactic civilization to being branded as the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Sir, Lieutenant Collins said quietly, what do we do now? Marcus looked around at his team's shocked faces. They had prepared for many possible outcomes of first contact. But they had never prepared for this. 3 weeks after the disastrous first contact, Dr. Vera sat in her research pod aboard the Zephyrian ship Crystal Harmony. Her crystal body pulsed with steady blue light as she worked through the mountain of human data they had collected. Around her, holographic displays showed Earth's history in terrible detail. Computer, show me the extinction timeline again, she said, her voice echoing in the small chamber. The air filled with a three-dimensional map of Earth, covered in red dots. Each dot represented a species that no longer existed. Vera had been studying this data for weeks and the picture it painted made her sick. Dr. Vera, called her assistant, Dr. Maya, from across the research bay. The High Command wants your final report in 2 hours. Are you ready? Vera looked at the floating red dots around her. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. I'm ready. And Maya, it's worse than we thought. An hour later, Vera stood before the emergency session of the Zephyrian High Command. The great crystal chamber was filled with the most important leaders of her people. Their bodies glowed with nervous yellow light as they waited for her report. Honored leaders, Vera began, I have completed my investigation into the human species. What I have found is the most complete record of genocide in galactic history. The chamber fell silent. Even the soft humming that Zephyrians made when they were thinking stopped completely. Vera waved her hand, and the air above the assembly filled with images from Earth. Pictures of great animals that no longer existed. Massive creatures with long tusks, giant cats with knife-like teeth, birds too big to fly. The humans call these creatures extinct, Vera explained. This word means they killed every single one of them. Not most of them. All of them. General Rex, an old warrior whose crystal body was scarred from many battles, leaned forward. How many species are we talking about, Dr. Vera? By their own records, they have eliminated 65% of all large animal life on their planet. But the smaller creatures, the numbers are even worse. More images appeared. Forests that had been cut down, rivers that had turned black with poison, skies filled with smoke. They destroyed entire forests to build their cities, Vera continued. They poisoned their oceans and filled their air with toxic gas. But most disturbing of all, they documented everything. The images changed to show human museums. Glass cases filled with the bones of dead animals. Children walking past displays of creatures their species had eliminated. They keep the bones of their victims and show them to their young ones. They teach their children about the animals they destroyed. And they call this education. Commander Blake, listening through intercepted communications from his hiding spot on a nearby asteroid, felt his heart breaking as he heard his species being described as monsters. Dr. Maya stepped forward to help with the presentation. The most disturbing evidence comes from their military files. Look at this document. A human text appeared in the air, translated into Zephyrian symbols. It was a military report from Earth's history, discussing the loss of habitat for something called polar bears. They knew their actions would kill these creatures, Maya explained. But they did it anyway. They wrote that the extinction of polar bears was operationally acceptable, if it meant they could extract more oil from the ice. The Zephyrian leaders made sounds of horror and disgust. Their crystal bodies flashed red with anger. Show them the mammoth files, Vera said quietly. New images filled the space. Massive, hairy creatures with long tusks. They looked peaceful, eating grass and caring for their young. These creatures were called mammoths, Vera explained. They lived on Earth for millions of years. But when humans arrived in their territory, the mammoths disappeared in just a few thousand years. Every single one. How did they do it? Asked Council Leader Dex, her ancient body crackling with electrical patterns of rage. They hunted them, Maya replied. For food, for materials, for sport. They killed them faster than the mammoths could have babies. And when the last mammoth died, they celebrated. Celebrated? General Rex stood up, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. They made art about their victory over the mammoths. They told stories about the brave human hunters who killed the last of these gentle giants. To them, extinction wasn't a tragedy. It was an achievement. Vera brought up more examples. The dodo birds that humans had killed for fun on distant islands. The passenger pigeons that had once filled the skies in flocks so large they blocked out the sun, until humans killed every last one for food. But surely some humans tried to stop this? Asked Council Leader Zara, her voice hopeful. Some did, yes, Vera admitted. But look at what their own records say about these people. A human document appeared, describing conservationists as obstacles to progress and enemies of human expansion. The humans who tried to save other species were treated as traitors by their own kind, Maya explained. They were ignored, attacked, sometimes even killed. The chamber erupted in angry sounds as the Zephyrian leaders discussed what they had heard. Finally, General Rex called for order. Dr. Vera, in your professional opinion, what level of threat do humans represent to galactic civilization? Vera looked around the chamber at all the frightened, angry faces. Honored General, in all my years studying extinct civilizations, I have never seen anything like this. Humans don't just eliminate their competitors. They eliminate everything. Other intelligent species, animals, plants, even the air and water they need to survive. And they documented it all with pride, added Maya. They're not ashamed of what they did. They're proud of it. Council Leader Dex stood up slowly, her ancient form crackling with power. Then we have no choice. Alert all Council species. Humanity represents an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. What are your orders? Asked General Rex. Immediate quarantine of the human system. And if they show any signs of trying to spread beyond their world. Dex paused, her crystal body flashing with deadly red light. Then we eliminate them before they can eliminate us. The vote was unanimous. Humanity was now officially considered the most dangerous species in galactic history. Admiral James Mitchell stood in the center of the massive Galactic Council chamber, feeling smaller than he had ever felt in his life. The room was enormous, with curved walls that stretched up into darkness. Around him, floating platforms held representatives from 12 different alien species, all staring down at him with hostile eyes. Some looked like the crystal Zephyrians he had met before. Others were completely different, floating gas clouds with glowing centers, insect-like creatures with too many arms, and beings that looked like living metal. But they all had one thing in common. They all hated humanity. Admiral Mitchell of the human species, announced Council Prime Zara, her voice echoing through the chamber. She was different from the other Zephyrians, older, more powerful, with 6 arms instead of 2. You stand accused of crimes against all life in the galaxy. James tried to keep his voice steady. Honored Council members, there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Silence, boomed General Rex from his platform. The massive warrior's crystal body flashed red with anger. You will speak only when given permission. Dr. Helen Carter stepped forward beside James. She was humanity's best scientist, and if anyone could make them understand, it was her. But even she looked scared. The air above them suddenly filled with holographic images. Pictures of Earth's extinct animals appeared everywhere, mammoths, dodos, saber-toothed cats, and hundreds of others. The evidence speaks for itself, declared Ambassador Nora of the crystalline hegemony. Her spider-like body clicked as she moved. Your species has eliminated thousands of life forms from your own planet. More images appeared. Forests cut down, rivers polluted, skies filled with smoke. James had seen these pictures before, but seeing them here, surrounded by angry aliens, made them look different. More terrible. Your own military documents prove your guilt, continued Council Prime Zara. She waved one of her 6 hands and human text appeared in the air, translated into alien symbols. Quote, the extinction of polar bear populations is acceptable collateral damage if oil extraction targets are met. End quote. James felt sick. Please, if you would just let us explain the context. Context. The voice came from Ambassador Krell of the Hive Collective. He looked like a giant ant but spoke with the voices of 1,000 minds. What context justifies genocide? Dr. Carter tried to step forward. We're not what you think we are. We're survivors, not killers. Survivors? Laughed General Rex, his voice like thunder. You survived by killing everything else on your planet. The chamber filled with angry sounds from all the different species. Clicking, buzzing, electronic beeps and crystal chimes, all expressing the same thing: hatred for humanity. Council Prime Zara raised her hands for silence. Let us review the evidence once more. Dr. Vera, present your findings. The Zephyrian scientist appeared on the central platform. Her crystal body glowed with confident blue light as she began her presentation. Humans have eliminated 65% of large animal species on Earth, she said. They poisoned their oceans, destroyed their forests and filled their atmosphere with toxic gases. And they documented it all. Images of human museums appeared in the air. They display the bones of their victims for entertainment. They teach their children about the creatures they destroyed and call it education. James watched in horror as his species was painted as monsters. Every word was technically true, but it was all wrong. They were missing the most important part of the story. They even eliminated other intelligent species, Dr. Vera continued. Neanderthals, who lived peacefully on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years, disappeared shortly after humans arrived. Coincidence? We think not. The alien representatives made sounds of disgust and fear. James could see the decision forming in their minds. Ambassador Krell spoke for his collective. The Hive votes for immediate elimination. This species cannot be allowed to spread. The Metal Brotherhood agrees, announced a robotic voice from a floating mechanical being. They are a virus that consumes all life. The gas clouds of Nebula 7 vote for elimination, whispered another voice, soft but deadly. James watched species after species vote to destroy humanity. His heart pounded as he realized they had maybe hours before the most powerful military force in the galaxy arrived at Earth. Wait, he shouted, his voice cracking. You don't understand what really happened. Council Prime Zara looked down at him coldly. Then explain, human. You have 5 minutes before we call the final vote. Dr. Carter stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. We never wanted to be alone. Every species you've shown us, every animal that went extinct, we tried to save them. We have thousands of organizations dedicated to protecting wildlife. Too little, too late, replied Ambassador Nora. You created the problem, then pretended to solve it. We didn't create anything. James shouted desperately. We were victims too. Earth is a dangerous planet. Asteroids, volcanoes, ice ages, we barely survived ourselves. Lies, said General Rex flatly. Your military documents show you planned these extinctions. No, Dr. Carter screamed. Those documents are about trying to save people during disasters. When an asteroid hits, when volcanoes explode, when ice ages come, we have to make terrible choices. But the aliens weren't listening anymore. They had made up their minds. Council Prime Zara stood up, all 6 arms raised. The evidence is clear. Humanity represents an existential threat to all galactic civilization. We vote now. The votes came quickly. Elimination. 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 Species after species condemned humanity to death. Wait, came a voice from the back of the chamber. Stop the vote. I have new evidence. Everyone turned to see a small Zephyrian scientist rushing toward the center platform. His crystal body flickered with urgent patterns. I am Dr. Owen Phillips, xenoarchaeologist. I have been studying Earth's geological records. The Council must hear what I have discovered. Council Prime Zara looked annoyed. Dr. Phillips, this is highly irregular. Please? Owen begged. If you destroy humanity based on false evidence, we will be the monsters, not them. The chamber fell silent. James held his breath, hoping against hope that maybe, just maybe, someone had finally understood the truth. Dr. Owen Phillips stood alone in his research lab aboard the science ship Deep Seeker, surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's history. His crystal body flickered with nervous energy as he worked frantically through the night. Outside his small window, he could see the massive galactic war fleet preparing to launch. In 18 hours they would arrive at Earth and destroy humanity. But something was wrong with the evidence. Owen had spent his whole life studying dead civilizations, and the patterns he was seeing didn't match what he knew about genocidal species. Computer, show me Earth's extinction timeline again, he said, his voice tired from hours of work. The air filled with a 3-dimensional map of Earth's history. Red dots marked when species had died out, scattered across millions of years like drops of blood. Owen's assistant, Dr. Maya, looked up from her own workstation. Owen, the fleet launches at dawn. Why are you still doing this? We have all the evidence we need. That's just it, Owen replied, studying the floating timeline. We have too much evidence. Look at this pattern. He pointed to clusters of red dots. See how the extinctions group together? They happen in waves, not steadily over time. Maya floated over to look closer. So, maybe humans got better at killing as they developed new weapons. No, look at the dates. Owen highlighted different sections of the timeline. This cluster happened 65 million years ago. This one at 250 million years ago. This one at 375 million years ago. Maya's crystal body flickered with confusion. Owen, humans didn't even exist 65 million years ago. Exactly. Owen said excitedly. Computer, overlay Earth's natural disaster timeline. New information appeared on the display. Asteroid impacts, massive volcanic explosions, ice ages and climate shifts. The disaster markers lined up perfectly with the extinction clusters. Maya, look at this. Every major extinction event on Earth matches with a natural catastrophe. The dinosaurs died when an asteroid hit the planet. The Great Dying 250 million years ago was caused by volcanic explosions that poisoned the whole atmosphere. Maya studied the data carefully. But what about the recent extinctions? The ones that happened after humans appeared? Owen pulled up more detailed information about the last 50,000 years. That's what I've been studying all night. Look at this. The display zoomed in on recent history. Red dots still marked extinctions, but now Owen could see much more detail about what had actually happened. The mammoths, Owen said, pointing to a cluster of data. Everyone says humans hunted them to extinction. But look at this climate data. New information appeared showing Earth's temperature dropping dramatically. The planet got much colder. Ice covered most of the northern lands where mammoths lived. Their food sources disappeared under miles of ice. But humans still hunted them, Maya pointed out. Yes, but look at the human population data. Owen showed her more graphs. There were maybe a few thousand humans in mammoth territory. But there were hundreds of thousands of mammoths. A few thousand people with stone spears couldn't have killed them all. Maya was starting to look interested. Then why did they all die? They starved, Owen said sadly. The Ice Age killed their food sources. The few that humans hunted were already dying from starvation and cold. Owen pulled up more examples. The dodo birds on the islands. Everyone says humans killed them for fun. But look at what else happened when humans arrived on those islands. The display showed ships bringing rats, pigs and other animals to the islands where dodos lived. Humans didn't mean to bring these animals. They came accidentally on the ships. The rats ate dodo eggs. The pigs destroyed their nests. Disease spread from the new animals to the dodos. So humans caused the extinction indirectly? Maya asked. They caused it by accident, Owen corrected. And look at this, once they realized what was happening, many humans tried to save the dodos. But it was too late. Owen brought up document after document showing human conservation efforts. People trying to breed animals in captivity, creating protected areas, spending vast amounts of money to save endangered species. Maya, look at this translation of human documents about polar bears. The text appeared in the air, glowing softly. This isn't a military plan to eliminate polar bears. It's a report about the ice melting due to climate change. Maya read the document carefully. This says they're trying to save polar bear habitat. And the part about acceptable collateral damage, it's talking about the bears that might die while they're building new protected areas. Exactly. Their military terminology isn't about planning extinctions. It's about damage control during disasters. Owen pulled up more files. When asteroids hit Earth, when volcanoes explode, when climate changes, humans have to make terrible choices about what they can save. More evidence appeared on the displays. Human museums weren't trophy halls, they were memorials to lost species. Human entertainment about extinct animals wasn't celebration. It was mourning, remembering what had been lost. Owen, Maya said quietly, if this is true, then we're about to destroy a species that's been trying to save others, not eliminate them. Worse than that, Owen replied, his crystal body now pulsing with urgent red light. Look at Earth's disaster history. Asteroid impacts every few million years. Massive volcanic explosions. Ice ages that last for thousands of years. How did any complex life survive on that planet? Maya studied the data and gasped. The humans? They're not the cause of extinctions on Earth. They're the survivors. Everything else died, but somehow they lived. Owen activated the emergency communication system. Council Prime Zara. You must stop the fleet. We've made a terrible mistake. The reply came immediately. Dr. Phillips, the fleet launches in 6 hours. Unless you have absolute proof. I have proof. Owen shouted. Humans aren't genocidal killers. They're the last survivors of a planet that tried to kill everything on it. And instead of celebrating their survival, they mourn everyone who didn't make it. A long silence filled the communication channel. Send me everything, Council Prime Zara finally said. And pray you're right, because if you're wrong, we may have just saved the galaxy from its worst nightmare. Admiral James Mitchell walked slowly into the Galactic Council chamber, but everything felt different this time. The massive room was still filled with alien representatives on their floating platforms, but the angry red lights were gone. Instead, soft blue and green patterns of light moved through the crystal beings, and even the mechanical species seemed less threatening. Council Prime Zara stood at the center platform, all 6 of her arms hanging at her sides. Her crystal body pulsed with deep purple light, a color James had never seen before. Admiral Mitchell, she began, her voice heavy with emotion. On behalf of the entire Galactic Council, I offer humanity our most sincere apologies. James felt his knees go weak. After weeks of being called monsters, he could hardly believe what he was hearing. Dr. Helen Carter stepped forward beside him, tears already streaming down her face. You understand now? Ambassador Lyra, the first alien James had ever met, floated down from her platform. Her crystal form was now glowing with gentle blue patterns. We understand that we made a terrible mistake. We saw the evidence of loss on your world, but we misunderstood what it meant. Dr. Owen Phillips appeared on the central platform, looking tired but relieved. His research data filled the air around them, Earth's timeline of disasters, extinction patterns, and most importantly, records of human conservation efforts. Your species has survived things that would have destroyed any civilization we know, Owen explained to the assembly. Asteroid impacts, volcanic explosions that poisoned your atmosphere, ice ages that covered most of your land. Each time you lost species that shared your world. But you never forgot them. General Rex, the massive warrior who had called for humanity's destruction just days before, spoke quietly from his platform. We thought your museums were trophy halls. We were wrong. They are memorials. Every extinct animal in our museums represents a failure that haunts us, Dr. Carter said, her voice breaking. We display them not because we're proud of what happened, but because we refuse to let them be forgotten. Ambassador Krell of the Hive Collective, who spoke with the voices of thousands, addressed the chamber. The Hive Collective has reviewed the corrected data. Human military documents do not describe planned extinctions. They describe emergency protocols during planetary disasters. James found his voice. When an asteroid hits, when volcanoes explode, when ice sheets advance, we have to make impossible choices. Save human settlements or try to protect animal habitats. We chose to survive, but we carry the guilt of everyone we couldn't save. Council Prime Zara's 6 arms moved in complex patterns as she spoke. Your acceptable collateral damage classifications. They are not the cold calculations of conquerors. They are the anguished acknowledgments of survivors forced to choose between salvation and extinction. Dr. Maya, Owen's assistant, joined the presentation. We found something else in the human records. Every time humans discovered they had accidentally caused harm to other species, they changed their behavior. New images filled the chamber. Humans creating nature reserves, breeding programs for endangered animals, and spending enormous resources to try to undo damage they had caused. Look at this, Maya continued. When humans learned that their chemicals were killing birds, they banned those chemicals. When they discovered their fishing was depleting the oceans, they created protected zones. When they realized their cities were destroying habitats, they started building green spaces. Ambassador Nora of the crystalline hegemony, whose spider-like form had once seemed so threatening, clicked softly. They were learning, growing, trying to become better. But most importantly, Owen added, they never stopped grieving for what was lost. In all our studies of galactic civilizations, we have never found a species that carries such emotional weight for other life forms. James looked around at the alien faces surrounding him. We're not proud of the extinctions on Earth. Each one represents a failure. We failed the mammoths when the Ice Age came. We failed the dodos when we accidentally brought predators to their island. We failed the passenger pigeons when we didn't understand how fragile they were. And now you joined the galaxy not as conquerors, Council Prime Zara said solemnly, but as beings who understand loss in ways we cannot imagine. Dr. Carter wiped her eyes. Every conservation law we've created, every protected area, every breeding program, they all came from our guilt over species we couldn't save. We learned from our mistakes because we couldn't bear to repeat them. General Rex stood up on his platform, his massive crystal form now glowing with respectful white light. The military coalition formally withdraws all hostile actions against humanity. Your species has proven something we thought impossible. What's that? James asked. That survivors can carry the weight of the lost without being destroyed by it. That guilt can become wisdom. That the strongest species are not those who never fail, but those who learn from their failures. Ambassador Lyra floated closer to the humans. We also discovered something else in your records. Humans who tried to save other species were often attacked by other humans. But they never stopped trying. Conservation has always been a battle on Earth, Dr. Carter explained. People who wanted to save forests fought against those who wanted to cut them down. People who protected animals fought against those who wanted to hunt them. It was never easy. Council Prime Zara raised all 6 arms in a gesture of formal recognition. The Galactic Council votes to accept humanity not just as members, but as honored guardians. Your unique experience with loss and survival makes you the perfect species to ensure that the tragedies of your world never happen elsewhere. The vote was unanimous. Every species, every platform, every representative agreed. We name you the Keepers of Memory, Council Prime Zara announced. So that the galaxy never forgets the cost of extinction, and so that no species ever has to carry the burden of survival alone again. James looked around at the alien faces that had once been filled with hatred but now glowed with respect and understanding. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy not as conquerors, but as guardians who would make sure that no world would ever suffer the losses that Earth had endured. We accept this responsibility, James said quietly. In memory of every species we couldn't save.